We are recording on both.
Get a video editing company.
Bro, yeah, this is, stage one, where I look forward to seeing stage 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, how it progresses.
I looked up the Joe Rogan podcast to look at his first one.
Yeah.
And it was very inspiring to see how, rudimentary, say, the technical aspect was.
Was it like filmed in his house and they just kind of like...
I don't know, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like a grainy camera like this one, and it was just them like figuring things out while it was live. They were like, click this button, do I do this?
Are we alive?
Yeah. So I'll give you a little introduction.
Sure.
Right? Let's do it.
Sure.
All right. So I guess we'll look at the camera for the first one. Hey guys, Professor Chris here with my good friend Eder. Eder is one of our most dedicated students. He has made so much progress in a little over a year that he's been here. I guess coming up like a year and a half now.
Year and a half.
That's awesome. How much weight have you lost?
About 35 pounds.
Awesome. Completely has changed his life, and he's fallen in love with jiu-jitsu, which is very inspiring to rekindle for me what it was like as a white belt, because I completely forget. So I'm here with Eder. He's going to ask a ton of questions that I'm sure a lot of students have, and we're just going to kind of run with it. So, Eder, thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to be able to formally interview here. This is going to be fun.
It is.
Looking forward to it.
The floor is yours. What do you got?
Great. So yeah, I guess we'll kind of start at the beginning, right? So you mentioned a little bit how I came in here a very dedicated white belt. Hard to go back to that. If you could just kind of just talk to us about like what it was that got you started in jiu-jitsu. I know you mentioned that like you were an athlete before, but like how did that tie into jiu-jitsu?
Yeah. So I went to college to play football, and then I got hurt and couldn't play football. So, and that happened like 3 weeks into my freshman year. So I had this gap of 4 years where, you played rugby, you had an outlet for your physicality, and I didn't. So I just lifted a lot of weights, ate a lot of food, and just kind of waited, because I knew whatever came after college, it was going to be something that was going to require a competent body, but I didn't know what it was. So I just worked out, and then I graduated college May 17th, 2008, bored out of my mind. One of my buddies convinced me to go train, kind of made me go train. He was like, I'll take an intro class with you at Ricardo's on South Broad Street if you will do it with me. I was like, all right, sure. And then I took my first intro class. You do like the break fall, the hip toss, cross collar choke. And I was like, this is it. This is how I want to spend my life. This is all I'm going to pursue. And I had no money at the time. So I remember I went home. My parents were on vacation. And I was still like a boy at that point. And I was like, do you think it's okay if I spend $205 a month on jiu-jitsu? And they didn't know what jiu-jitsu was. They didn't know I was like going to go take an intro class. And I didn't have $205 a month at the time. But I was just like, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to go for it. Because I had to sign up that day to like get a discount or something. So I just went for it. And I've fallen in love with it since. It's been great.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah.
It's interesting how you plan everything out from a physical aspect, and then now you get to see the fruition of it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So like the kind of jiu-jitsu journey, right? Mm-hmm. Can you talk about one of the hardest parts of it for you, and then probably one of the best parts for you? And I think I have an idea of what one of the best parts is, but I'll bring it up if you don't.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The hardest part would be, I tend to become very robotic. When I find something I love, like it's all I do. So the first car I ever had, the CD player, right? All of the buttons on it were unused except one, which was the back button. Because I would just find a song I would like, and I would listen to it for like a month and a half straight. And that was it, just every 3 minutes, repeat. And it drives Amber crazy, because I've always been like that. I eat the same things, I read the same thinkers, that kind of thing. And for me, jiu-jitsu became a vehicle with which like I pursued personal development, but it also became a vehicle for being robotic. It was just like, this is all I'm going to do. And I put aside my social life, put aside my, say, financial life. It was like, I'm just going to live on my friend's couch and do jiu-jitsu for a long time. And but that's also kind of the best part of it for me, is that I need something to pursue. Mm-hmm. I've always needed a problem to solve. So like when I took my first class, and I was like, this is a problem worth solving. So it was, I'm going to figure out how to master jiu-jitsu and just devote my life to it. So it was train, multiple times a day, every day. When I wasn't training, watching film. When I was watching film, having discussions with people who knew more than I did. So it was a vehicle in which I became robotic, which was not good for my personality. But it was a vehicle that allowed me to be robotic, which I have to do because of my personality.
Yeah.
So I guess that dichotomy pretty much exemplifies what it was for me.
Sure. My guess was going to be your favorite thing was the relationships you built up, because I see you when you bring in guest instructors here that you kind of came up with, whether it's Professor Pete or Professor Bongiorno. Mm-hmm. It's also very cool to see, and you kind of, as someone going through it right now, you think to yourself, oh, that'd be really cool if 10 years down the line, TR walks in and I'm like, hey, TR, how's it going, man? You know what I mean?
You'll have that.
Yeah.
That is the best part. I mean, when you suffer through something together, and you grow together, and the thing about jiu-jitsu is you need each other. Like, without your core group of blue belts, like, you're nothing. You have no one to train with. You have no one who's going to bring out the best sides of you. So you're kind of on an island. So we really are the lifeline for each other. And coming up, we always had, like, the team within the team. Like, Professor Pete has been one of my closest friends. He was my first jiu-jitsu coach, actually, when he was a blue belt and I was a white belt in the noon class. And we needed each other, and we held each other accountable. And it was cool because we had this core group of, say, 4 or 5 guys where no one wanted to get left behind because everyone was excelling at such a rapid rate that it was like, I don't want to be the guy who gets kicked out of the group because I'm not good enough. And not kicked out, we'd be boys, but when you're training and, you're looking for hard rounds and you look around the room and you know who you want to train with, we always wanted to train with each other.
Yeah.
And I never wanted it to not be that way. And we loved each other and we all had very similar goals. So it would be, even though, like, say, me and Pete were training, but Max and Rob were not training, if we figured something out, we couldn't wait to go show them because then they have a better tool and then they're going to be a more difficult problem to solve for us.
Yeah.
So it's this really reciprocal arrangement where we really help each other out. And through that, whenever we hang out, we probably never talk about jiu-jitsu, but our relationships were founded in jiu-jitsu.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that's the best part. And then to watch, like, Pete become a father and watch how he's responded to that has been pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. You briefly mentioned goals right now and kind of bringing it back to current day today, right? We're doing our April challenge.
Yes, sir.
We have people in the gym that want to lose weight. We have other people that want to try and make it here more often.
Yep.
I know for mine was like, all right, let's just try and throw a little
We
bit.
lost one.
Did we lose one?
We still got this guy. I don't know how it happens. Let me see if I can do this.
Get this one up.
See? We're the first Joe Rogan video.
Yeah, there it is. It's going to be great. It's going to be a little interlude.
Maybe there's a limit on it.
Is there?
There's a space limit.
Uh-oh.
Well, we got this guy.
Okay, we got this one.
We got this guy.
Okay. I gotta look at that for you.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm not a tech guy.
No, I figured.
Well, we got this thing. That's going strong.
Okay, cool.
All right, cool.
Yeah, so the April challenge, right? So
Yeah.
we have people here that want to lose weight. They want to make it back into the gym a bit more. You talk about the April challenge and kind of setting goals for yourself and accomplishing those goals.
Yes. So the April challenge is the brainchild of Coach Dan McCool. So he came in. He's been here a year. He just celebrated his year anniversary. And, bro, he lost like 55 pounds or something like that. Something ridiculous. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Completely changed his
Looks
life.
great.
Yeah, he looks awesome. He's built great habits. The relationships with his family have improved through jiu-jitsu. And he's not done. He wants to keep getting better. So he was like, I want a six-pack. And we all want something to work on. We all have things to work on. But we need accountability partners. Because I know for me, and Trevor knows this, like, if I write something down, I have to do it. It's locked in. There's no way I'm going to break that. So for me, I've always done my own accountability of just writing things down. It's like, all right, I can't break it. It's permanent now. But there were things I wanted to do that I realized I wasn't. Because, like, my life goal is to walk through the park when I'm 100 years old. That's what I want. And that's in response to tearing both pecs and going the exact opposite direction. So I was like, all right, if that's really my goal, I should be living according to that goal. And I realized that I wasn't, because all the science says if you want to live long, don't eat food. That's basically it. The slowest metabolism in nature lives the longest. And, in mammals with recent studies, the ones that eat in the smallest time windows, the least amount, have the most muscle mass, which makes no sense. It's counterintuitive, and live the longest. So I was like, all right, I'm eating way too much. Our culture doesn't help that. So I started doing intermittent fasting. So my April challenge is Monday through Thursday night. I don't eat at nighttime. I stop eating at 4 o'clock. And then I do a 24-hour fast on the weekend in response to trying to build the habits of not eating so I can live longer.
How do you feel? Because I know I did the intermittent fasting route as well. For me, it was difficult at the start, then it got easy. Yes. How was your experience? Is it similar to that? Like, do you have any mental clarity? Do you feel physically better? Like, you don't have to, like, kind of, you're not a slave to this pain of hunger. You know what I mean? You understand what hunger really is to a certain extent.
I understand. I've never actually been hungry.
That's what I'm trying to get at. Yeah.
Dude, it's been awesome. Like, I feel great. So I don't eat after 4 o'clock, and I'm sleeping better than I ever have. Which is crazy, because you would always go to bed, you want a full belly, you want to eat protein so your body has something to rebuild with throughout the night, like all that common mode of thinking. But I sleep better than I ever have. It's unreal. My dreams are so vivid. And in reading Nothing But Carl Jung, where all he talks about is the dreams are your unconscious's way of communicating to your conscious that they don't have a linguistic system. They use images. So that's, people think like, your dreams are hiding something from you. That's why they're so cryptic. Like, that's the only form of communication they have. So your unconscious is trying to tell you stuff, but it's limited by this medium, you know? So that's been cool to read Carl Jung in conjunction with actually having dreams, vivid dreams and figuring things out. The 24-hour fast on the weekends, they're not really challenging, which makes me want to go do, all right, let's do a 48, 72, and I will. But I don't really get hungry. Like when I break the 24-hour fast, it's because, 24 hours is up. After that, initial, there's probably an hour where you're like, man, I wish I was eating. After that, your body feels great. I was telling Trevor, Thursday night I was here. My last meal was at 12 that day. By 8 o'clock, my body was humming. It was just a salad with fats, nothing else. By 8 o'clock, my body felt really good. Like no joint pain, no mental fall.
Yeah.
And it made me realize the contrast to, like, say, if you eat a bowl of cereal and then all of a sudden your brain doesn't work anymore. Like we had a birthday party. There was a Nerf gun fight. We had pizza. And I ate pizza and I felt like I was driving home drunk. It was crazy. I was like, I shouldn't be behind a wheel right
Yeah. That kind of fog that you get. Yeah. No, I've got that before.
Yeah. What about you? What are you working on right now?
So it's just those last little 10 pounds, right? So I got down to where I want to be. But for everyone, it's that last little 10 pounds, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's the goal. That's what I'm trying to aim towards. You just keep on doing what you're doing, but do a little bit more of it, right? So my workouts now in the morning have including more running, a little bit more cardio conditioning.
Cool.
So that's been added into being in the gym here as much as I can as well. So it's good. It's very good. It's very good. Yeah. So reading and books.
Yes, sir.
Those seem to be two big things that you focus on too. Can you kind of expand a little bit on how the philosophical readings that you do, as well as I'm sure you read like for fun as well, not just Young and Campbell and Peterson, favorite fun book. Can you talk about how that ties into the mentality of what you bring to the jiu-jitsu mat when you're either teaching or doing jiu-jitsu itself?
Dude, that's an amazing question. I started reading and doing jiu-jitsu at the same time. It was started at 22 after college, and I met two great mentors, Professor Almeida and Dr. August Lemming, and it was like the two guys I needed at 22 years old to say, hey, go focus on these things for 10 years. So Dr. Lemming gave me, he taught a meditation class here. It was awesome. He gave me Way of the Peaceful Warrior, and that was the first book I really read where I was just like, oh, reading has something to offer you. It's not just like my English teacher making me. There are tools here. I can use these tools to be more efficient and better in the world. So, and then jiu-jitsu became, learn how to solve problems. So then I realized, well, I guess the biggest problem would be, what do I do with my life? And the answers were in books written by people much smarter and wiser, with more experience than I have, So they kind of went hand in hand. And you said, what do you read for fun? Carl Jung is the fun reading, which is awful. That's part of that robotic thing.
You don't have like any like little novel?
I read like 50
fiction?
50 nonfiction books for every one fiction.
Wow.
Stephen King is becoming that, like, okay, go take a break.
Take a break.
He's so enjoyable.
Yes, he is.
And then, because, I want to learn how to write, so there's no one better to study than Stephen King.
Yeah. This is a book I believe on writing.
Dude, it's one of my favorite books.
Okay, well, then you're aware of it.
I've probably read that book like 10 times.
Yeah.
And that's like my manual, I keep going back to.
Cool.
But reading has always served, I'm so limited. I'm a 32-year-old white guy from New Jersey who has had X amount of experiences. Like, I have such a minimal understanding of what reality is. I only know a little bit of my own reality. So reading allows like different perspectives on this thing. And Jung had this idea that men don't have ideas, ideas have men. And then Carl Jung has sort of, he said, we're all exponents of dead thinkers. We're just bringing forth their ideas, thinking they're ours, but they're not. And I'm thinking, like, I see that. You see those repeated themes. And I see to myself, it's like, nothing I'm going through is original to me. That's why I study all this archetypal hero stuff. Because all of my problems are not uniquely my own. They come manifest in your life in different ways in everyone's lives.
Sure.
So I'm trying to look at the transdisciplinary, transculture, transgeographical ways of viewing these problems and then solving them. And I think that's why I read, to know how to better act in the world. Because you only have so much time. So I want to get the best ideas and allow them to operate through me to make the most of my time while I'm here. Yeah, but my fun books are like Paul Young, Jordan Peterson, Aldous Huxley, and there are days when they're not fun.
I'm sure those seem like really intense,
It is
heavy burdened reads.
like going to the SATs every morning.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, I want to go tuck into bed and read a nice book. Carl Jung, 500 pages.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I had so we talk a lot about goals. You're the most goal-driven people I know, and one of my goals was I wanted to read these 3 books in the first quarter. Now I read a lot faster than that, but these were 3 books I was terrified of. It was Jordan Peterson's Maps of Meaning, it was Jung's Symbols of Transformation, and it was his student Eric Neumann's The Origins and History of Consciousness, and they're all like this big, and they're all essentially the same book written 3 different times. And then the first time I read Maps of Meaning was 2 years ago, and it took me 4 months, like every day. And I was terrified of reading it again. I was like, I can't do this again. And then I was like, I'm going to do them all in the first quarter. I'm going to read those 3 books in 3 months. And I finished on March 30th.
Wow.
And it was like I put this weight down. Just took it off my back.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And I got so much out of it.
Yeah. That's really cool.
What are you reading right now?
Right now, I am reading a ton of contracts for work. So, I try and get in with the podcast. I'm trying to advance in my career, right, to be a more leadership position. Yeah. So I started listening to a lot more leadership podcasts.
Attaboy.
Jocko Willenick is a former Navy SEAL, Jiu-Jitsu black belt, who's got a very powerful message, and I love listening to his stuff. Yeah. Creating SOPs, understanding, that you got to take ownership of whatever the fault is. It's already paid dividends at work, and just the small things that I do.
Excellent.
So, I'm looking forward to kind of advancing my career at work. But yeah, podcast is, I get all my information audio-wise, because every day at work I'm reading 30, 40-page contracts, and words just become words.
That's tough, man.
It's hard to go from your job is reading to going to read. Like, oh, this is now fun. It's like, all I see is here, therefore, now, there, as, and contractual language.
Oh, that's exhausting. Good for you, bro.
But yeah, I'm trying to increase the knowledge whenever I can, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you briefly touch on writing as well. Mm-hmm. You have a book now. I haven't that read yet, but I plan on picking up the audio version now that it's out there. But one of my favorite books that I did read of yours is 5 Rules for White Belt. Cool. For white belts. So that book was kind of really huge because it's the questions that you want to ask to your instructor, but not that you're scared, you just don't know quite how to ask them. Yeah. You've answered them in that book. So can you just
awesome.
Yeah, it was great. Can you just talk about like how kind of the next iteration of that will be? Because I'm a blue belt now.
Yeah.
So is it 5 rules for blue belt now? And then is there, down the line, whatever it is? Because that book was very helpful.
Man, I appreciate that. I'm glad. That's why I wrote it. And I wrote that because Stefan, did you know Stefan when he was here? Yeah, Stefan and I had one class together where he was the only one here. He was asking all these amazing questions. And I was just like, everyone is asking these questions. We need to get this in a formal answer. That's what that was. I tried to write 5 Rules for Blue Belts, and then it became Hero.
Wow.
The new book.
Wow.
Because you would think that the rules, I wanted to do one for each belt. And you would think the rules would become increasingly sophisticated, right? And they would become more conceptual and transdisciplinary throughout time. And then I realized that, like, what I was writing for the blue belt was actually what held true for every belt. So I was like, I can't do this white, blue, purple thing right now.
Yeah.
This isn't what this book has become. Because I in studying mythology and studying Peterson and Jung, you realize that there's one mode of action that works for every belt level and for every guard and every type of guard pass. And it's that idea of paying attention, confronting the dragon, and embracing death and rebirth. So I started writing that as a blue belt book, and I realized this is like the book for all belts, for all skill acquisition. Because the hero mythology always, becomes aware of the problem because he has clear vision. That's that eye at the top of the pyramid.
Yep. The all-seeing eye.
Yeah, that's what's at the top of your pyramid because that's what allows you to achieve everything else. So they always have that, and then when they see the problem, they have the fortitude to go confront the problem. You talked about killing the monster when it's small. Yeah. I mean, that idea of, if I see a dragon's egg, it's a lot easier to step on it now than go fight a dragon 10 years later. But if I see a dragon 10 years later, it's my obligation to go confront that dragon. Whether it's the dragon comes to your safe little world or you go off because he's a treasure that he's protecting. And then in so doing, to embrace the idea of death and rebirth, to allow yourself. In jiu-jitsu, there's no better metaphor than the phoenix. right? Which burns its feathers off and grows back as something better. That death and rebirth is what we do every time we train. You know, it's what every belt is. I think that's what the belt really represents. And if you look at the belt colors, until it's a black belt, it's just completely charred. There's been so much death and rebirth.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a real cool way of looking at it.
Right?
Yeah. That's awesome.
And that's it. I mean, if there was a conceptual lesson, it would be, hey, look at your jiu-jitsu, have the honest assessment to acknowledge what's not right, go confront that obstacle, and then allow that new information to inform your further progress, to let go of what you were and become something better.
Sure. So basically continue to play half guard and get smashed constantly until you figure it out.
Yes. And then when you do figure it out, it's that yin and yang symbol, right? With the two paisleys and the line that runs through. You have to always be on that line in between order and chaos, or the known and the unknown, where you're competent, where you're not. If you're too far and where you're competent, you don't grow. If you do deep half guard forever, when you master it, why you're doing it. But if you only do things that make no sense at all, that are so far out of your reach, like I'm going to go do barambolas right now.
Yeah.
You can't make any progress that way either.
Yeah.
So it's always staying on that fine line. And when you find yourself drifting, both your feet are in the known, you probably got to recalibrate.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool. So just future state, right?
Yeah.
Talk about now. Future state. The gym is growing.
Yeah, it's been
Our
good.
classes are more packed. I mean, this week we start our new schedule, which I'm very excited about. Where do you see this going, right? What's the vision? What's the as I say at my job, what's the 10-year plan? What's the 2020 outlook?
Ooh, I like that.
Clear
All right.
vision at the end.
Clear vision.
Yeah.
Yes. I want to build a place for wellness. I love jiu-jitsu. I devoted my life to jiu-jitsu, but I really devoted my life to people. I love people more than the art. And for me, jiu-jitsu has always been a vehicle, which I developed myself. And there were times when it was more important than myself, and that's what leads you to tearing two pecs. But for most part, it was always, this is the conduit through which I get to a better version of me. And that's why I want to share this with as many people as possible. So right now, we're in Harkins Plaza, 3,000 square feet. It would be really nice to have two mats going at once. Whether that could be in here, or whether that's, when this lease is up, go to a bigger location. Ultimately, I would want to own the building. I think that's the natural trajectory, But I want a place for wellness. I want a place where the whole family comes in, and those who are training jiu-jitsu are training jiu-jitsu at the same time, while, say, the mom or dad is doing yoga or going to the gym. I want to have, say, mindfulness teachers in there, healing, physical therapists, acupuncture. I would love to have just like a one-stop shop that is a great culture, where it's like, hey, this is where you bring your family to get better. And from the kids program perspective, I want this to really be basic training for life. Like, parents in the area know it's like, this is where you take your kid from 4 to 12. So they have the tools to be really successful in the world. So that's what I want. I want a place of wellness where everyone in the community comes here to be a part of this community and to get better in whatever discipline they choose to get better with. Yeah. It'll be fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
You'll be a black belt teaching. You'll have your kid in class.
I can't wait. That's what I'm looking forward to. Getting on the mat with the little guy is going to be awesome. He's already kicking very hard, which makes me think that he's not going to be like his dad.
Okay.
He's going to be an open guard player.
Okay.
Not an on-top
nice.
smash guard player.
Nice.
Sevlin's constantly complaining about, he's just kicking so hard. I'm like, all right, yeah, he's going to be doing a lot of spider guard. Black belt Evo.
That's awesome. That'll be fun, man. Yeah, that's been cool to watch all the dads coach their kids.
Yeah, that's really cool. And that's kind of like what I want to get to.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Me too. Yeah. Pete just had his daughter Scarlett on the mat. She's grown up on the mat. But this was, I think, the first time she's done jiu-jitsu on the mat in a semi-formal way.
That's awesome.
It was adorable, man.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the ticket right there.
I think that might have been the uplifting factor when Evelyn came here. She saw these kids on the mat, and she's like, oh my God.
Right.
I cannot wait. And then it was like 2 weeks later, Evelyn's on the mat. You know what I mean? She's like, okay, we can do this. It's fun. So yeah. That's all. Yeah.
What else you got?
So, just like in the way that you go into reading, right? Because I really know how much you read. Because you post a picture of those books, you have your goal, reading those 3 books. How do you tie in all the philosophical ideas into jiu-jitsu, but also kind of bring jiu-jitsu into philosophical ideas?
That's a great question. So, I love Jordan Peterson, right? I've read everything he's done. I've watched everything he's done. And he's like been in my ear literally for 3 years now. And I'm always blown away how he incorporates everything really well. How he seems to have this schema, and every new lesson he acquires is like put into it, you know? And I was always blown away, like, how does he do that? He just talks for 2 hours and he can just recall these things. Because he has a structure, you know, he has a body of work he's plugging things into.
Sure.
I think for me, it was jiu-jitsu was the true first schema through which I interpreted experience. And now I can't help but look through that lens. And I can't help but read something that, say, Aldous Huxley is talking about religion. And I'm like, that's exactly what happens at jiu-jitsu. It's just my most fundamental viewpoint.
Sure.
So over the years, I think it was because I started reading and doing jiu-jitsu together that lens kind of formed together. Now it's very easy to watch jiu-jitsu. And I was talking with the guys yesterday that I almost forget what it's like to be a white belt. I'm starting to remember again, which is weird, just watching Coach Brian teach the fundamentals class and seeing how the white belts are like so excited for this. Like, I learned the hip toss, and like the hip toss hasn't excited me in years, and it's starting to again because I see it exciting them.
Sure.
You know, and just to try to remember what it's like to be a new student, and then I start to remember, wait, when I was a white belt, that's also like when I discovered Buddhism. And then to remember the lessons again and the feelings again, because when you learn something, it can be very academic and intellectual. I think it's not until you really like feel it and understand it that it becomes a part of you. When you assimilate that into your being, that's when it's yours. Like we can all recite random facts, but when you are applying them in your life, that's when you have it. That's when it's yours. And my study of jiu-jitsu and reading have gone hand in hand that they've each informed each other because they were both informing my life at the same time in the same way. And I guess it's sort of your goal determines what you see. And I was always like, how can I be a better version of myself? So when I would read a book, that's why I was reading the book, to acquire that information. When I was doing jiu-jitsu, that's why I was doing jiu-jitsu, to acquire that information. So I think it was probably my lens that allowed me to look for the same thing everywhere and allowed me to combine jiu-jitsu and all the humanities in a way that made sense to me. You know, because it's all there. It's just a matter of interpretation.
Sure.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about, because you said, all right, you got Coach Brian teaching you fundamentals class, right?
Yeah.
So could you talk a little bit about becoming a coach, or what you look for in a coach, or you know what elements you want a coach to bring to the mat?
Great question.
Yeah.
Great question. I want a ferryman. Have you read Siddhartha?
No, I'm not.
Bro, you gotta read that book.
Yeah, read it. Okay.
Coach
Audio
Brian,
version?
there is.
Okay, great.
Coach Brian is reading it. Coach Jim just read it. Trev and I named our company after it. So Matakas Jiu-Jitsu is underneath Ferryman Services. And there's a character in that book. So it's a fictional tale of the Buddha, basically. And there's a character in that book, Vasudeva, who's the ferryman. And his job is to guide people from one shore to the other. And that like struck a chord with me. I love that idea. And I remember when Trevor called me, he was like, we need a name for a company. I was like, bro, I don't know. It should be something from literature, like Ferryman Services. And we had the name literally in like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And that was it.
That was it.
That was it. I want coaches who are ferrymen. Coaches who are coaching for the right reasons, which, one, to further their own development, but two, because they genuinely love people and want to help other people. And that's like, you know, Coach Brian in a nutshell. Like, it's fun to watch him teaching. I want coaches who are ferrymen, who are genuinely trying to help other people from one shore, the shore of their ignorance or wherever they currently are, to the shore of whatever their future goal is, whether it's to lose weight or compete or just make friends here, or whatever that is. So that comes first. You need to be a ferryman. I look for coaches who are articulate, who can communicate what it is we're talking about now, and coaches who love jiu-jitsu. Because you have to love it, man. And you have to, the only way you're going to acquire skill in this, because it's so complex, is because you love it. Like that 10,000 hour rule.
Yeah. You
don't do 10,000 hours in something you don't enjoy. Unless you have like really mean parents. You don't do it in adult life. Least,
no.
Right?
Least,
no one's making you do it. Yeah. And this is such a technical and very cognitively and physically demanding sport that there's such a high barrier to entry just to do it.
Yeah.
But then to teach it is even higher barrier to entry. So you really do need like exceptional human beings. And we have so many here, you know? So I look for people that love jiu-jitsu, that love people, and want to explore both of those together. Yeah, that's why you're going to be coaching.
Yeah, Can't wait.
Yeah.
So, love of jiu-jitsu and growing through jiu-jitsu. Can you offer a little bit of advice,
Please.
to the new person, because there is that big barrier, right?
Yeah.
How do they keep on going, right? The hardest thing to do is to do something new, and I feel like it shows here in spades, right? We have great coaches, but it's very easy. I felt when I first started to kind of get behind the 8 ball and just say, this guy's so much better than me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember my first role with the blue belt, and it was Coach Jim.
Okay.
And I was no idea what I was doing. Right.
Yeah.
And I was he just did jujitsu on me in a very caring and teaching way, but he just did jujitsu on me, and I was like, there is so much that I don't know.
Oh,
and then there's levels to it, right?
There
And
is.
it makes a lot of sense. So what do you say to the person that comes here, sees this huge barrier, and how do they overcome it?
You have to embrace failure. It's the only way. Like Trev and I say, if you're not failing, you're failing. You know? And in mythology, in general, the fool is the precursor to the savior. Like you have to be willing to be foolish to grow. And that's why this humbles you so well. There's no way around it. You are going to fail every day, and you're going to keep failing. You're going to fail publicly. And when you do that, then you get a little bit better. So I think it's, you either have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. If you have a fixed mindset, you identify with what you are, which means you don't allow yourself to fail. Because if you fail, I'm a failure. Right? But if you have a growth mindset, where it's, I don't identify with what I am, I identify with what I could be, or more importantly, identify with the process of becoming, then failing is your greatest gift.
Sure.
It's how many mistakes can I make?
Yeah.
Just how many mistakes can I make while holding yourself to the standard of making that mistake once? Because you want to be efficient too, right? So you want to be effective in failing, but you want that failing to be efficient. And if you keep making the same mistakes, you're not getting better. Yeah. So we need to hold ourselves to the standard of, I'm going to make one mistake once and draw a line in the sand and not make it again. And if you do that long enough, you keep solving problems. I don't want to see you run out of problems to solve because it's infinite. It's infinite. But you get the big ones out of the way.
Yeah. Just kind of like a fun question.
Please.
What is your favorite submission?
Oh.
And what is your kind of favorite thing to get out of, right? Where someone has you, but you know the escape, and you're going to do the escape.
Dude,
yeah.
That's a great question. All right. And we should probably end with this.
I think so.
We're running out of time.
Yeah.
Right? So, in general, the thing you get submitted with usually becomes the thing you start doing to people. And my first instructor was Coach Pete, who's now Professor Pete, and then Professor Larry, who's currently at Professor Pete. And they both had great Kimuras. So I was a white belt, she had Kimura all the time. So I was like, I need to figure out how to solve this problem. So I started doing Kimuras, and then I started Kimuring everybody. That was like my favorite thing. Like, there are black belts who are, say, a black belt at heel hooks, but a white belt at guillotines. It's so vast that you can only master so many little things. For whatever reason, the Kimura always made sense to me. And I always felt like I could Kimura anyone in the world on a given day. Best guys in the world, didn't matter. Couldn't guillotine anyone, couldn't heel hook anyone, I could Kimura anyone. So I guess the Kimura, because it happened to me so much that early on I built my game around it.
Yeah.
What was the second question?
The favorite escape, like the top
favorite escape.
Yeah, the top level way that you guys.
I never really got choked.
Really?
And that sounds ridiculous, but for whatever reason, I had a very high tolerance for chokes. So I always enjoyed that. Like the guys would joke, I used to be a lot thicker, that people were trying to triangle me, and it was just like, it's not going to happen. In one of my MMA fights, I was in a triangle. The guys were just like, looked away, because it was just like, I didn't get choked with triangles. I think it was my anatomy, and I would also, I was probably meditating so much where I had a pretty good understanding of my body, my physiology, where when I would be in a choke, I would imagine, like I would close my eyes and just relax as much as possible. And I imagine a white circle, and that was my airway. And as the choke got tighter, the white circle would like shrink. But as long as there was still a white circle, I was cool. And I would use it also as just counting. Like, can you count right now? Like when you're in a choke, 1, 2. And if I ever found myself not counting, I was like, oh, it's probably getting pretty tight. You have like one last effort. But I love that because it was the intensity of being choked that forced my opposite response of being relaxed.
Sure. And
the worse the position I was in, the more relaxed I became and cultivated the ability to sit in that difficulty and be patient. And I think that is one of those transferable skills that goes into everything. So I always defended chokes well because of my mind, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
More than my technique.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it's just like freaking out and burning through your own oxygen.
Sure.
But, in live training, once you develop a certain amount of skill, like a lot has to go right to choke you. If you can just learn how to not let everything go right, you're usually pretty good. Yeah. Dude, this was a great conversation.
This was a good conversation. I enjoyed this.
It. You crushed it. You're a great interviewer.
I tried.
You're the next Joe Rogan.
I try to be.
Shave the head. You can do it.
Yeah.
Down the road.
Yeah.
Dude, great job. Thank you, man.
you.
This
Thank
was
you
fun.
very much.
This
was
is
a lot of
awesome.
fun. Yeah.
You're the man.
Good, man. Thank you, sir.
Guys, we'll see Coach Eder on the mat in no time.
Thank you.
Job, bro.
All right.
Dude, that was fun.
That
Great
was
job.
fun. Good job.
We experienced our first technical difficulty.
The phone didn't have storage and shut off after 7 minutes. But we have a 35-minute video.